Today we're going to look a little bit outside the box. We're going to look at tampons for survival, or SHTF. Really, the word tampon is a French word that means little plug or stopper. One of the great things about tampons is that they are an FDA Class II medical device. These have been used on the battlefield for a number of years. In fact, a lot of medics carry these in their bags to stop bleeding, which is obvious. We're going to look at 10 different ways to use tampons for survival. There are a lot of different brands and there are a lot of different styles. But what I was really looking for is something with the plastic covering, the tube. This is going to be for certain things that we're going to use not only the absorbent part of the tampon, but the casing and also the waterproof wrapper. The casing itself comes apart, and of course there's a string, and then pull, and you're going to pull out a highly absorbent material that's a cotton fiber. And this unrolls and gives you a little pad. This can be pulled and flattened out. Okay, we're going to cut the string. Now we have a little pad, and this is probably the number one thing that you can use a tampon. Of course, you can also use pads for this one. Let's say you have an injury, you can take duct tape, take that down, secure the pad. This will also add pressure to the wound as well, and this is, again, super absorbent. Of course, packing a wound really works good even in this shape. Of course, this can be expanded out somewhat. So it not just only covers the wound, but it can also pack the wound to absorb the bleeding. Of course, pull it straight out. You can actually use this for nosebleeds. You can also pull these fibers apart. And obviously this can be an excellent fire tender. You can light it. Burns really well. Of course, you can go ahead and put your other tinder on here and it'll burn very quickly. That actually burns a lot quicker than I thought it would. And better. Of course, you can also take petroleum jelly, which is one of my favorite fire starting, just like with cotton balls. And I really like the tube a little bit better than the jar because it's not quite as messy. Squirt some of the petroleum jelly. Just mix it up really well, making sure you get down into those fibers. This will also hold it together. The one thing about the Vaseline, it's going to burn slower and it's going to burn longer. So you have a little bit more time to build your fire. This is about half the cotton material that just the plain tampon had. With the Vaseline, it definitely is a better fire starter. Now, the wrapper being somewhat waterproof, you can take standard matches. I really like these Ohio blue tip matches because it says "Don't tread on me," and I've shown that before. You got to promote these great companies. Take your matches, drop them down into the packaging. Go ahead and fold it over nice and tight. Take the string from your tampon. Tie a little knot. And you can have that in your pack. It keeps it waterproof. You can also use the fiber material for a fletch, for a small little dart, using the little tube. Slide it into the tube. You're going to need to make sure that you get the suction right. So you're going to need to pull out. This will probably work better in other things, but improvised, it's going to work. Then you see a zombie right in the head. Okay, maybe that's a little weak, but it can be improvised if you need to. Take a little olive oil, put it in a small container. Take your fibers and roll them up really tight. I tried to do this with a string, it just didn't work. The string burned really quickly. But if you take and just roll it up really tight, dip it in the olive oil, and make a little wick, you can see that it's going to burn, and it's going to burn very slowly. The more olive oil you have in your container, the longer it's going to burn, but it's still going to burn for a considerable amount of time, just like this. You can take a water bottle, cut it in half, take your tampon, open it up, I'm going to take the lid off and stuff it, compress it down in. Now take the top end of your bottle with the fiber stuck down into the bottom, and then take some water, whatever kind of water. Of course, in a survival situation, water is number one. Now again, this is not going to be something that you really want to drink, but in a dire situation, it will remove a lot of the sediment. It's going to remove a lot of the particles. But once you do this, it still needs to be boiled. The bottom half gives you a container to store it in. Otherwise, you're not going to have anything. And it pours right out. Now, as you can see, that's not the cleanest water in the world, but it sure is better than what's in there, and you filtered all that junk out. In fact, I went from this to this. That's a really big difference. We're going to make a small water filter straw. This is not going to be one that's going to take away Cryptosporidium or Giardia or even the minerals that are in the water, but it can be used in a last ditch effort. If this is all you have, this is all you have. So go ahead and hold on to your string, take out the tip, but you don't want to pull it through your straw part. And then where your string is, we're just going to cut, because we want it to be able to fit down into this little straw area. We're going to try to filter out as much of it as we can. Just pull it through, and then I'm just going to cut that string off. Now obviously, again, a latch ditch effort, but putting that filter in there is going to help in cleaning out some of that water. You know, you may get sick, and really it's best to boil it. But taking this straw with the fibers inside, sucking it through, especially with a really clean water that's going over rocks in a creek. If you have a lot of rocks, mountain streams are really good, but they still can contain all kind of germs. So again, I want to make a big disclaimer here. Don't try this. It's best to boil that water. But if you're dying of thirst, dysentery can kill you. So you got to be careful. Filtering water and having a good water filter system is no substitute for this kind of setup. Plus, putting one of these things to your mouth, it's just weird. The wrapper's waterproof, but it's also airtight. So cut it to a small piece. Take some fishing line, wrap up the end, then just tie it onto your fishing line. Of course, you may not have actual fishing line, you may have to use some string. Either way, it'll work. Get a good, solid, tight fit. Make it a little puffy. And of course, you're not going to catch much in a pool, but as you can see, it definitely floats. Again, using everyday household items for survival. Just get you to think. Whether you're bugging in or bugging out, these are great items to have. Or a great item just to keep in your medical bag at all times. Now guys, I didn't come up with all this. I actually got this off of Swiss Army Survival. And I'm going to have a link to his blog right down below in the description. So check it out. I think he does have some accompanying YouTube videos showing different things. But a great idea, something that is so common and yet has so many purposes. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. And then of course you have your wig. Today we're going to think a little bit outside the box. Get the string, get it started. Go ahead and light your string. Be careful because it's going to burn down until it really starts to catch. That's just burning.